President Trump's doctors may allow him to return to the White House today. That, of course, does not mean his treatment from the coronavirus is ending or that he is out of the woods. The White House says the president is hard at work, releasing videos and pictures of him allegedly performing his duties. But the president's medical team isn't giving clear indications about his health status. The treatment he's been given is consistent with those who have a severe COVID-19 infection. Now, that didn't stop the president from hopping into a motorcade to wave at supporters outside the hospital yesterday. Health experts are criticizing that joyride, fearing it may have jeopardized the health of the Secret Service personnel in the car with him. CBS News' Natalie Brand joins me now from Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Natalie, hi there. Has the White House provided any clarity as to when exactly the president was infected or how serious his illness now is?
Good afternoon, Tanya. We are still waiting to learn a whole lot more answers on that very question. And I have to say, as you've pointed out, it was a weekend of a lot of confusing and at times conflicting information from the White House and the president's medical team. You may remember on Saturday, we received that very rosy picture, optimistic outlook from the president's physician, Dr. Sean Conley, and the medical team here at Walter Reed. But then shortly after that, we learned that the president's vitals on Friday were very concerning and that the next 48 hours would be a critical period of time. And right after that, Dr. Conley actually had to come out on Sunday and acknowledge the president did have a high fever on Friday and had 2 incidents of oxygen levels dropping, which prompted supplemental oxygen on Friday before he was brought here to Walter Reed. And also, as you pointed out, he's on this very aggressive treatment plan of, now we've learned, a steroid in addition to an experimental antibody cocktail along with remdesivir. So some of our own CBS News medical contributors are asking, given that very potent drug combination, is his condition more serious? We're still waiting today for an update from the president's medical team here. The White House chief of staff did tell Fox News that the president could be discharged as early as Monday, but that decision would be made later in the day. And one more thing I want to point out, the president even acknowledged in one of his videos over the weekend that the real test could be the next few days, given what we know about this virus and the timeline of its progression. But yes, the big question that remains, when exactly did the president become infected? And the question that was not answered over the weekend that would shed some light on that is, when was the president's last negative test for the coronavirus? Tanya.
Right. So many questions that still need answers, Natalie. And now White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany is the latest member of the president's inner circle to test positive. What more do we know about her status?
She announced this morning that she tested positive for COVID-19 this morning while experiencing no symptoms, she says. She also pointed out that she had tested negative consistently prior to that, but she briefed reporters at the White House as recently as yesterday without a mask. She also held a press briefing last Thursday, you remember, but again, she says at that point she was negative, and she says she did not have knowledge at that time of Hope Hicks's diagnosis for the coronavirus. But McEnany now becomes one of more than 10 people either in the president's inner circle or individuals who attended that Rose Garden ceremony for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett, who have since tested positive for the virus.
Right. So speaking of that ceremony, three of the Republican senators, including two on the Judiciary Committee, are among those who've tested positive, as we were saying. How is this impacting Republicans, the way they are approaching the Barrett hearings, and how are Democrats responding?
Well, those hearings are supposed to begin just a week from today, and Democratic lawmakers on the Judiciary Committee and the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are saying this is clear reason to postpone those hearings. They had been calling for the postponement ahead of this, but they say this now is a really new and important reason to delay the hearings until the extent of exposure and contact tracing can be done on Capitol Hill. However, Republican leaders have indicated they want to move forward, even if that means holding virtual hearings. Judiciary Chair Lindsey Graham tweeted that any member who would like to participate virtually could do so. As you pointed out, two Senate Republicans on that committee are currently in isolation. But beyond that, this raises the question of the vote itself, which, as you know, Republican leaders have been aiming for a vote before the election. But with such an unpredictable virus, we don't know exactly when the three Republican senators with the coronavirus could return to Capitol Hill. It's going to depend on their recovery and the timeline of that. But one interesting note that I'd like to point out, Senator Ron Johnson, who is among the three, was asked about this and said, quote, "If we have to go in and vote, I've already told leadership I'll go in a moon suit." That is a new quote from Senator Johnson. Obviously, this is going to be a source of controversy and a big fight across the two sides.
Right. So, Natalie, how are lawmakers reacting to the lack of information coming from the White House on President Trump's health status? And further, are Republicans concerned about what this could mean for their own campaigns?
Well, one thing, the White House and Republican operatives and campaign officials have wanted to argue that the coronavirus, we are recovering from the coronavirus and starting to turn the corner. Well, this clearly proves that it is still a huge threat. It still poses a huge danger and has now reached the highest office in the United States. So this really puts the coronavirus and the impacts and the extent, the scope of this virus in clear perspective and front and center during a critical period less than 1 month until Election Day. And the other issue is we don't know how far-reaching this is yet, given the incubation period. How many other Republican operatives, since this has reached now the campaign and the RNC chair, we don't know the extent of how far-reaching this will end up being. And so this is going to continue to be a huge campaign issue with a lot of fallout still to come and a lot more questions to be answered.
All right. Well, Natalie Brand, thank you so much.